thought the hospital was empty, but at night I learned the patients never really left. My name's Ryan, and a few months back, I took a night security job I'll never forget. The place was an old hospital on the edge of town, shut down for over a decade. The company told me my only job was to keep trespassers out. Kids sneaking in for dares, vandals, looking for cheap thrills. Easy money, right? Just patrol a few empty halls, drink some coffee, and wait for sunrise. If you're new here and you love chilling true horror stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for what happened inside this hospital. The first night was quiet, too quiet. By 11 p.m., the wind outside howled through broken windows, and the fluorescent lights buzzed like angry insects. The air smelled faintly of bleach and mold. Walking down those long corridors, I kept hearing echoes, like footsteps ahead of me. When I checked, the hall was always empty. I told myself it was just the building settling. At around 1 a.m., I passed the old pediatric ward. The door creaked open, just enough for me to see inside. All the beds were empty, except one. The sheets looked disturbed, tucked down, like someone had just gotten up. I swear I felt the hair on my arms rise. By 2:30, the noises grew stranger. I heard coughing from the surgical wing, then a child's laugh, faint but sharp, bouncing off the tiled walls. My flashlight flickered every time I turned toward the sound, but nothing was ever there. That night, everything escalated. At 3:07 a.m., alarms went off in the ICU section, but the hospital's electricity had been cut years ago. Nothing should have worked. I sprinted down the corridor, my boots slamming against the linoleum, every step echoing too loud. As I entered, I froze. Beds that had been covered in dust and sheets were now filled. Figures lay under the blankets, silhouettes shifting, their breathing heavy. Machines beeped steadily, though they were unplugged from the walls. One by one, the patients began to sit up. Pale faces turned toward me, eyes wide and hollow, like empty sockets, staring straight through my soul. And then they all whispered the same word, in perfect unison. Stay. I don't remember running, but I woke up outside, sitting on the cold steps of the hospital entrance. My flashlight was gone. My radio was crushed in my hand. The company still hasn't given me an explanation. They just told me never to go back there after dark, and they paid me extra to keep quiet. But every night since, I hear that same whisper in my head when I close my eyes, like the patients are still calling me back. Last night, I found something shoved under my apartment door. It was a hospital bracelet, and the name written on it was mine. When I picked up that hospital bracelet shoved under my apartment door, I thought it was some sick prank, but when I turned it over and saw my name printed in bold black letters, I realized something terrifying. They knew where I lived. I didn't sleep that night. The bracelet lay on my kitchen table. The plastic band bent and stained like it had been worn for years. But here's the thing. The hospital had been closed for more than a decade. And the date on the bracelet, it was yesterday. I kept asking myself the same question. Was someone stalking me? Or had I brought something back from that hospital? By morning, I was exhausted. My phone buzzed with a message from my supervisor. Short, cold, like always. Report back tonight. No excuses. Same shift, midnight. I almost quit right then. But the money, the silence from everyone who knew more than they were saying, it pulled me back. That night, I returned to the hospital. I told myself I'd just clock in, walk the rounds, and stay out of the ICU. But the moment I stepped inside, it felt different. Colder, like the air was thicker, harder to breathe. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I checked the main hallway. The shadows seemed to stretch longer than they should, clinging to the walls like something alive. At 12:47, I passed by the pediatrics ward again. The same bed with the disturbed sheets, only this time the sheets were neatly made. Too neatly, tucked in like a nurse had done it minutes ago. I turned away fast, my chest tight. That's when I heard it, the squeak of wheels. Somewhere down the hall, a gurney was rolling, but no one was there to push it. I gripped my radio, even though I knew it wouldn't work, and whispered, "Is anyone here?" The gurney stopped, and then, with a loud crash, it slammed into the wall. At 1:00 a.m. on the dot, the building shifted again. Lights flickered on overhead, rows of fluorescent bulbs that should have been dead for years. The halls were alive now. I could hear voices, dozens of them, talking, laughing, moaning. Like the hospital was still open and running. But there were no people. Just empty beds, broken chairs, and scattered papers on the floor. I stepped into the ICU, against every instinct screaming at me. And what I saw made my blood run cold. The patients were back, not just shadows this time, fully visible. Dozens of them lying in beds, some hooked up to machines, others sitting up and watching me. Their skin was pale, almost translucent, veins visible like cracks in glass. And standing among them was a nurse. She looked real. Her uniform was faded, but clean. Her hair pinned up, her smile sharp, but wrong. She moved down the rows, checking on the patients, adjusting machines that weren't even plugged in. When she saw me, she stopped, and that smile stretched wider. "Ryan," she said softly, "we've been waiting for you." I froze. How do you know my name?" She tilted her head, almost amused. "Because you're one of us now." Before I could react, she held up a clipboard. My name was written on the top sheet. Admission details filled out like I was a patient scheduled to stay. I stumbled back, heart hammering, but the doors behind me slammed shut. Machines began beeping faster. patients stirred, whispering again, all of them in perfect unison. Stay. I don't know how long I was in there. Minutes, hours. Time didn't feel real anymore. I forced myself through a side door, down a stairwell choked with dust and cobwebs, until I burst out into the parking lot. My chest burned, and my hands shook so bad I could barely light a cigarette. But the worst part, the clipboard came with me. I don't remember grabbing it, but it was in my hands when I got outside. My name, my date of admission, and a section left blank. Date of death. That night, back at my apartment, I locked every door, checked every window. But around 2:30 a.m., I woke to the sound of someone moving inside my kitchen. I grabbed a bat, creeping toward the noise. The lights were off, but the refrigerator door stood wide open, humming softly. And on the counter, lit by the glow of the fridge, was the clipboard. The blank line for date of death was filled in now. It said tonight. When I saw my own clipboard on the counter, lit by the refrigerator's glow, my blood went cold. The blank line for date of death had been filled in. Tonight, it was already past 2:30 a.m. My heart pounded as I stood there, gripping the bat, waiting for something to move in the shadows. But nothing did. The kitchen was silent, except for the faint hum of the fridge. I forced myself to pick up the clipboard, half expecting some invisible hand to snatch it away. The paper was ice cold, like it had just been pulled from a freezer. I tried tearing it up, but the paper wouldn't rip. I tried burning it, but the flames snuffed out every time it touched the sheet. It was like the thing wanted to exist, and if the date on it was real, I had only a few hours left. I tried to leave my apartment, but when I opened the front door, the hallway outside wasn't my building anymore. It was the hospital, the same chipped white tiles, the same buzzing fluorescent lights. Only now, it stretched on forever in both directions. I slammed the door shut, breathing hard. My apartment was still behind me, but it no longer felt safe. The hospital wasn't just at its old address anymore. It was following me. I sat in the living room, every light on, the clipboard in front of me on the table. At 3:00 a.m. sharp, my phone vibrated. A new text from an unknown number. Room 413. Don't be late. I didn't want to check, but the part of me that needed answers needed to survive knew I had to. I don't remember falling asleep, but when I opened my eyes, I was there. Back inside the abandoned hospital, the halls smelled of disinfectant and decay. My footsteps echoed like I was walking into a trap. Every door I passed had a number stenciled above it, peeling with age. 401407410. Finally, 413. I hesitated before opening it. Inside, the room was empty except for one bed. Sheets clean, tucked tight, waiting for someone to lie down. And at the foot of the bed was the nurse, Her eyes gleamed in the dim light as she smiled that too perfect smile. "You made it," she whispered. I gripped the doorframe, refusing to step inside. "What do you want from me?" "You already know," she said. She raised the clipboard, identical to the one in my apartment, my name staring back at me. Only now, under date of death, it didn't just say tonight. It had a time, 4:00 a.m. I looked at my watch. 3:45. 15 minutes. The patients began appearing one by one, filling the corners of the room, standing against the walls, their hollow eyes fixed on me. They whispered the same word over and over, voices building into a chant. "Stay, stay, stay." I backed into the hall, my hands shaking. The lights above me flickered and burst, one after another, plunging the corridor into darkness. And then behind me, I heard the gurney wheels again, rolling closer, faster. I ran, my lungs burning, feet slamming against the tile. Every corner I turned, the hospital twisted, reshaped. No matter where I went, room 413 was always at the end of the hall, waiting for me. It was like the building itself wanted me in that bed. At 3:59, I crashed through a stairwell door, stumbling down flights of stairs into the basement. The air was damp, heavy with the smell of mildew. My watch beeped. 4:00. I froze. The chanting stopped. The air grew still. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd beaten it. But then I saw it. In the center of the basement floor was another bed, already prepared. And this time, the clipboard was lying across the pillow. I picked it up, my hands trembling. My name was still there, the date of death still tonight, but the time had changed. Pending. I dropped the clipboard and ran for the exit. The basement door slammed shut before I reached it, and in the corner of the room, something moved. Not a patient this time, not the nurse. It was me. I saw myself lying in that bed, eyes closed, chest rising and falling slowly, like I was already admitted. The clipboard lay on the bed, the word pending scrawled under my name, almost glowing in the dark. I wanted to run. I should have run, but something kept me there. The air grew heavier, like the walls themselves were leaning in, listening. And then I heard her voice. "The nurse, you can't leave until you understand." She stepped out of the shadows. Her smile was gone now, her face blank, empty, and in her hands a file. My file. She opened it slowly, and I saw photographs, not old ones, not black and white relics of past patients, but fresh pictures of me at my apartment, on the bus, sleeping in my bed. They weren't taken weeks ago. They were taken yesterday. Why? I demanded. Why me? Her expression didn't change. "You applied." I froze. Applied. And then it hit me. The job posting. Night security needed. Abandoned facility. Good pay. Immediate start. I thought it was some shady ad, thought I was desperate, but it wasn't a job listing. It was a contract, and the moment I stepped foot inside that hospital, I wasn't the guard. I was the patient. The lights flickered, the gurney wheels screeched again, and suddenly they were all around me. The patients, dozens of them, hollow-eyed, silent now. They weren't attacking, they weren't chasing, they were waiting. For me, the nurse pointed to the bed in the basement. "Lie down," she said softly. I shook my head, backed away, but the room warped. The walls stretched. No matter where I moved, the bed was still there. Closer, waiting. The clipboard slid across the floor until it rested at my feet. I looked down. The word pending was gone. In its place, one word. Now. I stumbled, fell back against the bed. Cold hands seized my arms, patience holding me down. I screamed, kicked, fought, but they were strong, too strong. The nurse leaned close, her face inches from mine. "This was always your shift." The last thing I remember is the sheet being pulled over me, tight, smothering, darkness pressing in, and then silence. They say the hospital's still abandoned, but if you ever walk by late at night, you'll see a single light burning in the basement. And if you listen closely, you might hear someone pounding on the walls, begging to get out.